Welcome back to the life with the Browns. 14 years. That's how long Robyn Brown carefully curated the image of innocence, confusion, and quiet victimhood. And in a single, brutally honest one-on-one interview, that entire illusion collapsed in real time, right in front of millions of viewers. What was supposed to be just another sister wives' special promising vague answers turned into something far more shocking and far more satisfying. This wasn't a reunion. This was a reckoning. As Robyn sat across from the host, you could see it in her eyes almost immediately. The panic, the calculation, the sudden realization that this was not going to be another soft conversation where tears do the talking and accountability gets politely avoided. When clips from previous seasons started rolling, clips that directly contradicted the story Robyn was trying to sell, you could practically watch her scrambling internally, desperately searching for a new angle, a new deflection, a new way out. But there was none. For over a decade, Robyn positioned herself as the peacekeeper, the one who just wanted the family to work, the wife who was constantly misunderstood, unfairly blamed, and emotionally exhausted by everyone else's dysfunction. Fans who questioned that narrative were told they were reaching, being cruel, or manufacturing drama. But this tell-all quietly confirmed what longtime viewers have been saying all along. We weren't imagining it. We were watching it happen. Every theory about Robyn isolating herself and Cody from the rest of the family. Every suspicion about manipulation disguised as concern. Every moment where her tears conveniently redirected blame onto Christine, Janelle, or Mary. It all came rushing back into focus. And for the first time, Robyn couldn't outrun it. The most telling moment wasn't even what she said. It was what didn't work anymore. Her signature move, the trembling voice, the emotional protests of innocence, the watery eyes, fell completely flat when faced with actual evidence. Footage doesn't care about feelings. Clips don't bend for tears. And as those scenes played back on the screen in front of her, the familiar emotional shield she'd relied on for years simply failed. According to sources close to production, even the crew was stunned by how badly Robyn handled the direct confrontation. One insider described it bluntly: she walked in expecting to control the narrative the way she always had. But this time, the format didn't allow it. There was no Cody beside her to interrupt, deflect, or redirect. No group setting to hide behind. No way to talk in circles until the question disappeared. This was Robyn, alone, facing her own words and actions. And that's exactly what made this tell-all different from every reunion that came before it. For the first time in Sister Wives history, Robyn Brown was placed squarely in the hot seat.
No buffers. No excuses. No escape routes.
After 14 seasons of watching other wives absorb blame while Robyn quietly benefited, viewers finally saw what accountability actually looks like when it can't be avoided. The cracks in her carefully constructed narrative didn't just show, they exploded. What made it even more brutal was how quickly her opening defense unraveled. Before she could settle into her rehearsed explanations, the first major contradiction surfaced and blew her entire storyline apart. Season 20's one-on-one format wasn't an accident. It was clearly designed to prevent the usual chaos and distractions that let uncomfortable truths slip through the cracks. Production wasn't protecting anyone anymore. This wasn't going to be another episode where Cody dominates the room while the wives sit in awkward silence. It wasn't another opportunity for Robyn to play the supportive spouse while subtly throwing everyone else under the bus. After 2 decades on television, it was obvious the producers had decided the audience deserved honesty, and Robyn walked into that studio completely unprepared for what that would mean. She arrived with confidence, the same composed posture viewers had seen countless times before. Insiders say she came armed with prepared talking points, ready to blame editing, context, and fan misunderstanding. But prepared answers only work when you know the questions. And this time, she didn't. The structure worked against her in the worst possible way. Direct question, footage playback, follow-up question. Over and over again. No room to spin. No space to rewrite history. Just facts colliding with fiction. For years, the idea that Robyn was the quiet puppet master behind the family's collapse was dismissed by casual viewers as conspiracy talk. But those paying attention noticed the pattern. Wife after wife drifted away from Cody, Christine, then Janelle, then Mary, while Robyn somehow ended up with the largest house, the most financial security, and the only intact relationship with the family patriarch. At some point, coincidence stops being coincidence. One former insider summed it up perfectly. Watch where the money goes. Watch who ends up alone with Cody. That's your answer. This tell-all finally forced the accountability fans have demanded for years. No more hiding behind group dynamics. No more deflecting onto someone else's pain. No more weaponized tears shutting down real questions. The host came prepared, with clips, quotes, and receipts that couldn't be explained away. And Robyn, for the first time, had nowhere to run. According to production sources, the mood in the studio shifted the moment Robyn realized this wasn't the reputation repair tour she expected. But the most devastating moment was yet to come. When asked a simple question about timing, when she first noticed the marriage is falling apart, Robyn's answer sent shockwaves across social media. In just a few words, she contradicted years of her own narrative. For seasons, she insisted she was blindsided by the family's collapse. That Christine's exit shocked her. That Janelle's distance came out of nowhere. That Mary's isolation wasn't something she saw coming. But suddenly, under direct questioning, the story changed. And in that moment, 14 years of carefully crafted innocence finally came undone. But her answer during the tell-all shattered that version of events completely. In just a few sentences, Robyn quietly admitted that she was aware of deep, structural problems in the marriages far earlier than she has ever publicly acknowledged. And that admission? It changes everything. Because if Robyn knew things were falling apart long before the exits happened, then her long-standing claim of being blindsided wasn't confusion, it was strategy. And this is where the timeline starts to get ugly. Let's talk about the Mary catfishing era, because that period has always been framed as Robyn's strongest character defense. For years, she has insisted she was Mary's biggest supporter, the compassionate sister wife, the one who stood by Mary when everyone else pulled away. That's the story Robyn has told repeatedly, both on and off camera. But the footage tells a very different story. What we actually see during that time are conversations between Robyn and Cody that feel far less like support and far more like quiet case-building. Discussions that subtly reposition Mary from hurting wife to liability. We see distancing masked as concern. Strategic language disguised as empathy. The groundwork being laid, brick by brick, for Mary's eventual isolation. When the tell-all played those clips back and asked Robyn to explain them, her response was so thin, so unconvincing, that even the host seemed unconvinced. And viewers noticed immediately. Social media erupted in real time. Twitter threads.
Rede de Briadons.
Side-by-side video comparisons flooded timelines as fans matched Robyn's tell-all claims against her own past words. One fan account compiled a montage showing 17 separate instances where Robyn's new version of events directly contradicted what she previously said on camera. 17. That's not a fuzzy memory. That's not confusion. That's a pattern. A pattern so consistent it points to deliberate narrative control. And according to whispers from inside production, those clips weren't included by accident. Sources say producers knew exactly what would happen when Robyn's story was placed next to hard evidence. One insider reportedly said it plainly. She had been protected for years, but ratings are ratings, and accountability drives engagement. Cold? Maybe. But incredibly revealing. This tell-all was never meant to rehabilitate Robyn's image. It was designed to finally show casual viewers what longtime fans have been clocking for years. And the timeline contradictions? Those were just the appetizer. The main course came when the conversation turned to Christine. The moment footage of Christine's departure began playing on the studio monitors, Robyn's entire demeanor changed, and the cameras caught every second of it. Her face went through a rapid sequence of micro-expressions that body language experts would have a field day dissecting. The tightening around the eyes. The forced neutral expression. The familiar lip purse that always precedes her defensive responses. For someone who claimed she wanted the family to stay together at all costs, her physical reaction to Christine's freedom told a completely different story. Even the host noticed the shift and pressed her on it, asking what she was feeling in that moment. Robyn's response was textbook deflection, vague, emotionally coded, and carefully worded to avoid specifics. But the specifics couldn't be avoided for long. The discussion turned to allegations that Robyn had been undermining Christine to Cody in the months leading up to Christine's decision to leave. According to multiple reports, Robyn had private conversations with Cody expressing concerns about Christine's attitude, her commitment, her unwillingness to fall in line with the family structure. On the surface, that might sound like normal spousal communication. But let's translate it honestly. Robyn wasn't expressing concern. She was reframing Christine as a problem to be managed. A disruption to family harmony, which, notably, always seemed to align perfectly with Robyn's household comfort and priorities. Christine wasn't unhappy. She was difficult. She wasn't setting boundaries. She was uncooperative. Publicly, Robyn insisted she wanted Christine to stay, that she reached out, that she was heartbroken over the departure. Privately, the evidence suggests something else entirely. Witnesses say Robyn made little to no genuine effort to connect with Christine during those final months. Instead, her focus appeared to be on reinforcing her position with Cody, making absolutely sure that if Christine walked away, Robyn's status would remain untouched. One insider described it perfectly. It was like watching someone pretend to hold the door open while quietly pushing it shut with their other hand. And during the tell-all, when confronted with these allegations directly, Robyn tried to reframe everything as a misunderstanding of intent. She claimed her comments came from a place of love, that she was just trying to help Cody navigate a difficult situation. But this time, the host didn't let it slide. Follow-up questions drilled down into specific conversations, specific moments, specific actions that didn't match the loving wife narrative. Robyn's answers began to fracture, loaded with qualifiers, half-statements, and unfinished thoughts that only made her defense look weaker. Viewers at home could see it clearly. The facade was cracking in real time. And what makes this exposure especially powerful is what came next, Christine's life after leaving. Christine isn't struggling.
She isn't lost.
She's thriving. And based on Robyn's reactions during the tell-all, that fact genuinely seems to bother her. Every mention of Christine's happiness, her successful new relationship, her close bond with her kids, her peace, landed like a small but visible wound. Because if Christine could leave and flourish, what does that say about the family structure Robyn has spent years defending? What does it say about the hierarchy Robyn benefited from? Let that sit for a moment. Christine's happiness is living proof that the system wasn't about unity. It was about control. And Christine wasn't the only wife whose story exposed Robyn's tactics. Because when Janelle entered the conversation, she didn't come with emotions. She came with documentation. And that's where things truly started to unravel. Janelle Brown walked into that studio with the energy of a woman who had been waiting years for the floor to finally be hers, and she did not waste a single second. There was no yelling.
No theatrics. No emotional outbursts.
Instead, Janelle came armed with something far more dangerous: facts. Her approach was almost surgical.
Calm.
Measured. Relentlessly precise. She didn't come to argue feelings. She came to document reality. And it was immediately clear that Robyn was not prepared for this version of Janelle. Sources say Janelle had been compiling records for months, possibly years, quietly waiting for the right moment and the right platform. The tell-all gave her exactly that, and she used it with devastating efficiency. The revelations surrounding the Coyote Pass property alone were enough to leave viewers stunned. For years, fans have questioned how those land decisions were made, who had real input, and who ultimately benefited. Janelle laid out a timeline that painted a picture of systematic financial marginalization. According to her testimony, major decisions that affected all the wives were routinely made between Cody and Robyn first, sometimes exclusively, with the other wives informed later, if at all. And this wasn't just about who ended up with more. The accusation was far more serious. Janelle alleged that Robyn actively participated in structuring financial arrangements that disadvantaged the other wives, and then backed those claims with documentation,
Dates.
agreements, patterns. It wasn't speculation. It was evidence. One moment from Janelle's testimony has already become iconic among longtime fans. As Robyn attempted to interrupt, slipping into her familiar deflection about never wanting division, Janelle didn't raise her voice. She didn't engage. She simply reached for another document and continued speaking. The message was unmistakable. Your interruptions don't work here. Your tears don't work here. Your victim narrative doesn't work here. We're dealing in facts now. According to people present during filming, that moment produced nearly a full minute of silence from Robyn, an eternity in television time.
No rebuttal. No deflection. No explanation.
Just silence in the face of receipts that couldn't be argued away. And the financial accusations didn't stop with land disputes. Janelle went further, outlining everyday spending decisions that revealed a consistent imbalance. Resources that should have been shared among all the wives and their children flowed disproportionately in one direction, toward Robyn's household. The large home, the paid nanny during periods when other wives were openly struggling. Shopping trips and lifestyle upgrades that seemed immune to the budget constraints everyone else was expected to endure. What made Janelle's testimony so powerful wasn't anger, it was acceptance. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had finally stopped gaslighting herself. Years of quiet frustration, finally spoken out loud. And perhaps most striking of all, Janelle refused to be cast as bitter or jealous. She stated plainly that her goal was not revenge, it was clarity. She wanted viewers to understand what actually happened, not the carefully sanitized version presented for years. Sources close to Janelle say she felt a responsibility to the audience, to the fans who had supported her, to finally confirm what they had long suspected. The irony was impossible to miss. For years, Robyn branded herself as the rational one, the peacemaker, the wife who just wanted harmony. And here was Janelle, the wife so often labeled cold or detached, methodically dismantling that image with calm logic and evidence. But with Christine and Janelle now both on record, one voice remained. And when Mary finally spoke, it delivered the most devastating blow of all. Mary Brown, the woman who stayed the longest, endured the most rejection, accepted the most isolation, defended the family structure long after it had stopped defending her. Her testimony cut straight to the core of Robyn's manipulation tactics in ways even longtime critics didn't fully anticipate. Because according to Mary, Robyn wanted her gone too. She just did it more quietly. For years, viewers asked the same question. Why did Mary stay? Why did she continue defending Cody and the family even as she was pushed further to the margins? The tell-all finally gave answers, and those answers implicated Robyn directly. Mary described a pattern of systematic exclusion that was painful to watch. She spoke about showing up to family events only to discover plans had changed without her knowledge, being left out of conversations about family decisions that affected everyone, reaching out to Robyn, believing they were close, only to be met with excuses, delays, and eventually silence. The pattern was chillingly familiar. It was the same slow isolation Christine experienced, the same marginalization Janelle documented. The only difference was time. Mary's version unfolded over years instead of months. Sources say Mary's testimony ran nearly twice as long as originally scheduled because once she started talking, years of suppressed frustration came pouring out. One topic received particular attention: the bed-and breakfast. Mary's Utah business, one of the only clear entrepreneurial successes to come out of the family, became a focal point. According to Mary, Robyn allegedly influenced Cody's perception of the business, reframing it not as a legitimate endeavor, but as Mary choosing to be away from the family. That framing mattered, because Mary's success was then weaponized against her, used as proof that she wasn't committed, that she didn't really want the family, that she was already halfway out the door. And in that moment, the full picture finally came into focus. This was never about unity. It was never about harmony. It was about control, quiet, strategic, and systematic. And by the end of the tell-all, with all three women's stories, let that sink in for a moment. Work hard. Build something successful with your own two hands. And then watch that success be twisted into evidence that you never really belonged. The manipulation wasn't loud or sloppy. It was almost elegant in its cruelty. The most emotional moment of Mary's testimony came when she finally admitted what viewers could hear, but she struggled to say out loud. She sees the pattern now. For years, Mary defended Robyn. She dismissed the criticism, brushed off fan concerns, and genuinely believed that her friendship with Robyn was real. She thought Robyn was different. The tell-all captured the exact moment that belief shattered. Mary's voice cracked as she described going back and rewatching footage from earlier seasons, scene after scene, conversation after conversation. And suddenly, everything made sense. The isolation she experienced wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't bad timing or misunderstanding. It was systematic. It was coordinated. And Robyn was at the center of it. According to people present during filming, that admission marked a turning point, not just for the tell-all, but for Mary's entire relationship with the Brown family. She had been the last holdout, the one still willing to give Robyn the benefit of the doubt. And now, her testimony confirmed what Christine and Janelle had already laid bare. 3 wives. 3 nearly identical stories. Marginalization. Exclusion. Manipulation. At that point, the statistical probability of coincidence didn't just drop, it disappeared entirely. But even cornered by 3 devastating testimonies, Robyn still had one defense mechanism left. And watching it finally fail may have been the most satisfying moment of the entire special. Right on cue, the tears came. The trembling voice. The sobs. The declarations of innocence. The insistence that she was misunderstood. We've seen this performance before. For 14 seasons, it worked flawlessly. Whenever Robyn faced accountability, the tears flowed. Cody rushed in to protect her. And somehow, the conversation always shifted away from her actions and toward how cruel everyone else was for questioning her. But this time, it backfired spectacularly. To the host's credit, they didn't retreat. They didn't soften the questions. They didn't change the subject. They pressed forward. When Robyn blamed editing, unedited footage was pulled up showing the same behavior. When she claimed context was missing, more context was added, and it only made things worse. When she cried harder, the camera lingered just long enough for viewers to notice something unsettling: the absence of actual tears. People in the studio later said you could physically feel the energy shift. The realization was collective. The crying wasn't working anymore. Robyn then pivoted to her final familiar shield, the editing excuse. According to her, the show has unfairly portrayed her for years, cutting footage to make her appear calculated. That argument might work for one moment, maybe even 2, but not 14 seasons. Not hundreds of hours of footage. Not a pattern this consistent. One production source summed it up bluntly: we can't edit footage that doesn't exist, and we can't make someone say things they never said. Robyn's words are her own. Online reaction was swift and brutal. Even longtime Robyn defenders began questioning the narrative. Social media flooded with frame-by-frame breakdowns of the tell-all, the timing of the tears, the deflections, the body language that contradicted her words. One comment captured the collective mood perfectly. 14 seasons of this woman crying to escape accountability, and we finally got to see what happens when it stops working. The schadenfreude was everywhere. And what made this failure so significant is that Robyn built her entire public identity around being the emotionally sensitive wife who just wanted peace. Once that shield was gone, once tears and victimhood no longer worked, what remained wasn't flattering. Desperation, evasion, and finally, panic. Cornered, Robyn made a move that would create an even bigger problem. She tried to throw Cody under the bus. In her desperation to save herself, Robyn made an admission that sent shockwaves through the Sister Wives fandom. She acknowledged, almost casually, that she and Cody had private discussions about the other wives and their issues. On the surface, that might not sound shocking. Of course, spouses talk privately. But the way Robyn described those conversations revealed something far more calculated. These weren't casual talks. They were strategy sessions. Moments where Robyn shaped Cody's perception of the other wives. Moments where narratives were formed, concerns were framed, and decisions were justified. These were the spaces where manipulation actually happened. And with that admission, Robyn accidentally confirmed what fans had suspected for years. She and Cody operated as a team, and that team's primary function was to manage, marginalize, and eventually eliminate the other marriages. Robyn spoke about analyzing Christine's attitude, evaluating Janelle's emotional distance, questioning Mary's commitment. Notice the pattern. Notice who was always being evaluated and who was doing the evaluating. The power dynamic couldn't have been clearer. When the cameras cut to Cody after Robyn's statements, his reaction said everything. According to those present, his face cycled through shock, anger, and finally resignation. He knew she had revealed too much. And he didn't deny it because he couldn't. Robyn had already confirmed it on camera. All he could do was try to minimize the damage.
And he failed.
That single admission forced viewers to rewatch 14 seasons through an entirely new lens. Every moment Cody lashed out at another wife. Every decision that benefited Robyn while disadvantaging the others. Every sudden shift in loyalty. Was it all shaped in those private conversations? Based on Robyn's own words, the answer appears to be yes. Let that sink in. Every conflict, every marginalization, every instance of unequal treatment, potentially orchestrated behind closed doors by Cody and Robyn together. Sources say that admission caused tension even between them. In trying to deflect blame, Robyn exposed their shared culpability in a way neither can undo. She validated every fan theory about coordinated manipulation and did it on camera, permanently. And the aftermath? Even more explosive. Within hours of filming wrapping, insiders say the family group chats exploded. Adult children reached out to their mothers with messages of validation and support. Others contacted Cody and Robyn with far less gentle words. A family already fractured experienced aftershocks that threatened to sever what little connection remained. The social media behavior in the days that followed was just as revealing. Christine posted about truth and moving forward. Janelle shared a pointed message about receipts and documentation. Mary went silent, then returned with a post about new beginnings. Robyn? Total radio silence. For someone who rarely resists responding to criticism, that silence spoke volumes. Insiders say she was advised to say nothing until the full tell-all aired, but the absence only fueled speculation about how damaging her performance truly was. Reports also means the adult children have grown increasingly vocal in their support of their mothers and their disappointment in their father and Robyn. The tell-all didn't just confirm fan theories. It validated years of quiet frustration inside the family. One source described the children's reaction as a mix of vindication and grief. Vindication that they weren't imagining things. Grief for a family destroyed by people who claimed to value it most. Now, speculation is swirling about Robyn's future on the show. Production insiders suggest the network is weighing its options. On one hand, Robyn guarantees drama. On the other, her credibility with viewers has been so thoroughly demolished that keeping her front and center may alienate the audience. This isn't personal, it's business. And right now, the business case for Robyn as the emotional anchor of the show is collapsing. The original premise of Sister Wives was about a plural family making it work. That family no longer exists. What remains is one marriage, 3 women who found happiness after leaving, and adult children navigating the fallout. The tell-all may have been designed to build buzz. Instead, it may have revealed that there's nothing left to sell. Because what this special truly exposed wasn't just Robyn Brown, it was the mechanics of reality TV manipulation itself. 14 seasons of timeline lies. 3 wives with nearly identical stories. Documented attempts to escape accountability. Failed tears. Accidental confessions revealing coordination with Cody. The mythology is gone. Robyn and Cody positioned themselves as the stable core, the marriage that worked while others failed. That narrative required viewers to believe the other wives were the problem. The tell-all exposed that as a deliberate construction designed to hide their own role in the collapse. From this point forward, every interview they give will be viewed through a lens of skepticism they can't escape. They've lost something irretrievable. They've lost plausibility. And the final question viewers are left with cuts to the heart of this entire saga. Was Robyn so wrapped up in her own narrative that she genuinely didn't see the damage she caused? Or was this calculated from the beginning? A slow, deliberate strategy to secure her position while eliminating the competition? The evidence overwhelmingly supports the second. The innocent victim story is finished.
The truth is out.
And karma, it turns out, has a very long memory.